Listening Section 3. You are going to hear two students talking to their tutor about a presentation. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen and complete questions 21 to 24.
Hi, so your presentation is a short history of human exploration, is that right?
Yes, from prehistory to the modern era.
Here's an outline we did of what we've organized so far.
Thanks. Okay, so it seems to focus on periods rather than people.
Yes, there is so much information that we decided to be quite general, except for people who really impacted the topic.
So how will you introduce your topic?
Well, at first, we thought of just having a simple opening slide and a very brief overview, then getting straight into the body of the presentation. But we think that maybe we need to define some terms in the introduction, to ensure that everyone can understand the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, we especially want to make sure people understand the difference between exploration, discovery, and invention, so we will make that clear in the introduction.
That's a good idea, but please remember to keep it short. The introduction is supposed to be quite brief. You have a lot to cover. How are you going to organize it?
Well, luckily there seems to be consensus on the different eras, so we thought we could find the explorer that most epitomizes each one, and how they impacted exploration in that time.
The other thing we've had to do is narrow our focus and concentrate mostly on European explorers. If we tried to include the whole world, there is just too much to fit into the presentation.
But it's sad, I really wanted to include people like Zheng He, whose voyages were in the same era but before most of the famous European voyages of discovery by Columbus, de Gala and Magellan, who we will mention, or Ibn Battuta, who traveled even further than Zheng He did. He was a Muslim Moroccan scholar, but we just don't have enough time to fit them all in.
So how many periods will that include then?
Only 4 actually. Ancient, from 5000 BCE to around 400 CE, medieval, which is from the 5th century to the 15th century, the Age of Discovery from the 1400s to 1600s, and the modern era from the 18th century to the present. We'll be presenting them chronologically, I think.
Before you hear the rest of the recording, take some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and complete questions 25 to 30.
That sounds sensible. So you've mentioned that for the introduction you were thinking of defining your terminology. I think that is a very good idea. Explaining the terms will make it easier on the audience later on in the presentation.
Okay, we will do that then, and keep it brief. For the first section, Ancient Exploration, we've decided to use Alexander the Great, but what we really need to do is to find a good recent map to show exactly how far he traveled, and the modern names of the places he went to. We think that will make it easier for the audience.
Yeah, we can't assume that people are familiar with the ancient names. Although it might be a good idea to also place the ancient terms next to the modern ones, as all the sources use the ancient titles.
I do think that it is important to use the ancient as well as the modern place names, so do make sure to include them. Now, who are you using for the medieval period?
The Vikings. I know most people don't see them as explorers, but they went to so many places, and even America. They were innovative navigators and boat builders, which enabled their voyages of discovery. We do need to verify the sources for some of our information, but I think most of it is accurate.
Yes, you must be able to get reliable and accurate sources, and don't forget to include them all in your submission.
For the Age of Discovery we have far too many explorers, which makes it harder. So instead of a person, we've gone with a country. Portugal was the first of the great exploring nations, so we are going to focus on its achievements and explorers, like da Gama, Cabral, Magellan, and Diaz. There is so much information, we will need to sit down and organize it all.
Yes, we've done all our research for this era, we just need to organize it now. It's a similar problem with the modern era, so we've decided to go with space exploration, because it has had such an impact on the world, culturally, politically and technologically.
It's also very modern.
How are you going to present it though? Choose an astronaut or program.
We are going to do it chronologically, from Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite, to the current collaboration between governments and private interests. There are a lot of significant milestones, but we will only mention major ones, like landing on the Moon for example. We still need to make a timeline, probably a decade per slide. We think that is the clearest way to present it.
For our conclusion, we thought we could ask the audience if they have any questions on what we've presented while recapping each era with a slide. We need to decide what style of slides to use for the recap, but we thought it would help to keep the questions focused on what we have presented.
Well, it all seems to be coming along well. Once you've got a draft ready, I'd like you to make an appointment and show me. It will be the last chance you have to get feedback before the presentation.
This is the end of section 3.